Hello, fellow adventurers. I'm thrilled to welcome you to our digital realm, a place where pixels come alive. So let's begin with our story.
Our story begins and we see a beautiful woman walking towards the podium wearing a white wedding dress, and she is about to get married. And we can see on her face she is making every effort to appear calm and composed on her wedding day, despite the nervous flutter in her heart. But it's hard to ignore the taunts and hatred in the eyes of the wedding guests or even lust. The joy and happiness that typically fills the air during weddings was missing on her special day. And the scene shifts. We see the priest begins the wedding ceremony. The priest,
"Let all creation worship you, in the arms of the Almighty Creator."
Protagonist feel bad because priest prayers will never become true. And today, she is marrying the man who will eventually going to kill her in the end. The priest,
"I now pronounce you husband and wife."
Suddenly we see a flashback of her past life. A guy asking her for money, but she rejects him by saying,
"Do you know how much money I already gave you, Uppa? Can you even pay me back?"
And the guy shut her up and reminds her that he was the savior of her life and she owes him her life. And in his anger, the guy pushed her down the stairs, and she fell to her death. And she found herself in a different person's body, and she realized she had been reincarnated as Edith. Protagonist remembers,
"This is the character from the novel I was reading last night, and in this story, Edith Rigglehoff, I plays the role of the simple, ignorant, greedy villain whose love becomes twisted into jealousy. In novel, I constantly scheming to get rid of Rice. Rice Sinclair is the illegitimate daughter of a count. She's a young lady who possesses the beauty of spring flowers. Because of her birth, she was tormented by her family. Her childhood was full of problems, but her problems last until the day she meets the Rudwicks brothers. Soon, she became their ward. And so begins the fierce competition between the two brothers for Ruth's heart. And in this story, I'm portraying the role of an evil person."
Despite having a doting father and never once having to worry about money, while lost in thought, the maid skillfully dressed her up and tells her her father was waiting for her. She was overjoyed and eager to see her father, so she ran to meet her father. She is also contemplating the mistakes Edith made in the novel and feels responsible for fixing the mistakes. Protagonist,
"If I can pull this off, I might finally live a happy life with a loving family."
She greets her father with the hopes and dreams of better life, but her all dreams and hopes of a new life shattered. Her father started yelling at her for being late, criticized her by calling her lazy, and instructed her to stop loitering by the door and closed it. Suddenly a prompt window pop up. It says identity confirmed. And her memory synchronization begins. She falls into Edith's memories and sees the reality. In her memory, Edith was begging for forgiveness.
"I promise, I won't make another mistake again, father."
She's shocked to see the reality. Protagonist,
What on earth is happening? She was supposed to be the spoiled, arrogant villain, but the reality was nothing like her public image. She was abused and exploited to the core. She wore fancy dresses and lots of jewelry everywhere she went. It was like her family's name was written all over her. She was a walking billboard for her family. But at home, she became the target of everyone's anger. Even the servants would join in hurting her. She was the most valuable doll of the Rigglehoff family.
and we see Edith questions to protagonist.
"So? You think you can do it?"
And we see our protagonist come back to the present where her father scolds her for not paying attention to him and warns her not to make any mistakes today and says our enemies are just looking for an excuse to bring me down.
Protagonist question herself why in this life and the last. Why I'm always stuck with such terrible families.
In next scene we see how the two noble family become rivals. In the beginning both families were equally powerful. But Count Rudwich became a decorated war hero and was promoted to the rank of Duke. Our Rigglehoff family, however, believed that the title of Duke had been unfairly taken from them. To uncover information that could expose the Rudwicks, they attempted to marry Edith into their family as a spy. The protagonist fought back tears and gathered her strength, determined to seize the opportunity and create her own success. Now protagonist.
There's a tiny glimmer of hope, if you can even call it that. I've learned how to survive in tough situations.
And with that, our story comes to an end. But fear not, we'll continue our tale in the next episode from Shadow to Light.
you.